Y'all, did you know that the numerology of your home can determine the type of energy and vibes that can play out wherever you are living? And I am somebody who has lived in at least 15 different residences ever since I have been here on planet Earth. So I think I have the knowledge and expertise to be able to relay some real life experiences because one, I always tell you guys, everything is tied to a number. We are living in a literal numbers matrix, but it's so cool to see how your address is determining what is happening within the home. Now, if you, let's say, live in an apartment 1206, you add all those numbers up and get it down to a single digit. That is the numerology of your home. If you live in a home and your address is 123 Main Street, add those numbers up and get it down to a single digit. That is the numerology of your home. So I'm going to kind of go through numbers 1 through 9, and then let me know if you have experienced these things within your home. And like I said, I've lived in a lot of places, so I'm going to tell y'all some of the things that have played out while I lived in those areas. And then again, if you have experienced these things, let me know down below. But yeah, let's get started. All right, y'all, if you have a home or an apartment that adds up to a 1, 1 is sun energy. So sun energy is the energy of confidence, is the energy of determination, it's the energy of courage and leadership, initiative, people who like to take risks. So you could have a home or an apartment that's very visible, very noticeable. When people walk by, they drive by, they're like, ooh, ah, who lives in there? Is it a king? Is it a queen? It looks so royal and regal. The sun is just putting a spotlight on your home. So people who live in these homes can be people who are like high level executives. It's really good for leaders or entrepreneurs, people who really want respect within the home or are looked at as somebody who deserves a lot of respect in the home. Again, sun is Leo, is lion, is the king. And a lot of times too, if you have multiple people living in the home, they're probably all doing their own thing. They have their own independent hobbies going on, their own interests going on. There's no really like teamwork going on in the home. And it can also represent a sign of new beginnings. Maybe you moved into the home because you got a new job, because you got married. It's just like kind of like having like a 1 personal year. You start something new whenever you move into a 1 energy. A lot of times too with this energy, because sun is the father, there can be really deep relationships connected with the father or the kids. If you have kids in the home, they can really, have a lot of respect for the father, maybe share the same profession as the father, or just like I said, have the same interests as the father. A lot of times too, this can also be an indication of like somebody healing at the soul level because, 1 is the sun and 1 is solo. And a lot of times too, when people are on a spiritual path, they are by themselves. There can be feelings of loneliness or lack of close attachments. Even if you are, living with somebody, it can feel like that. There can be a tendency too, because the sun is Leo energy, can have an ego or have just high expectations of other people. And so if you are somebody who enjoys teamwork and, working in groups and partnerships, this is probably not a good vibration for you to live in. If you can choose, an apartment number or an address or something, and you really want to work together with someone and you move into a 1 energy, it's not going to be as cohesive as you'd like to be. So just to kind of pay attention to that. But if you do like teamwork, you can go ahead and move into the 2 vibration, which is the moon. So, like I said, if you have a home or an apartment that adds up to a 2, that is a focus on teamwork and partnership. And I kind of mentioned earlier that I've lived in several different places and I have lived in a 2, residence before. There was a lot of teamwork, a lot of partnerships within the home. It can be, group activities, but also because the moon is your emotions, there can be a lot of emotional, emotions going on, sensitivity going on, but that's also very important. A lot of times too, the people within the home can be very patient, very caring, because moon is like motherly energy. And so very gentle towards the other people in the home. And your feelings really, really matter with this. So marriage and partnerships usually prosper as long as both partners are, they like being a part of a team. Romance is very important to these people. So again, it's like a little softer energy, but there can be a tendency to get feelings hurt easily. So that's just kind of something you have to learn when you live in the 2 vibration to become mentally stronger. But a lot of times too, mother and child relationships can become very important, and they are important and very healthy. And then there's a lot of attention to small details. Like Sometimes, and I, like I said, as I've lived in this vibration before, trying to part with like sentimental items, oh, this person gave this to me when they went on this vacation, and like, it's really trash, but you should like throw it away, but, it's kind of hard. And so there is a tendency to collect a lot of things, a lot of clutter, had to do like a big throw away a lot of stuff. And so that is something too, that you can kind of hoard things. And so if you're somebody who likes privacy or prefers to work alone, then this two vibration might not be good for you. And like I said, because I lived in this situation, it was kind of hard to get work done, because I have to do it when I'm by myself in isolation. So that's just kind of like a challenging situation too. And sometimes if you are dealing with something emotional within the home, it can take a long time to come out of that sadness or trauma or depression, because you are living in an emotional environment. So that's just kind of something to pay attention to if you are living in that two vibration. But if you're living in the three, if your home or apartment adds up to a three, that is Jupiter energy. Jupiter in astrology is seen as more of a positive, benefic planet. And so that's a really happy and joyous and social within the home. A lot of visitors or guests can come. And then sometimes whenever they come in, they can feel really welcome. They have like a sense of happiness, because this is the home for like socialization. Maybe you're having little parties and stuff like that. And it can be really busy too, where everybody's kind of occupied within their work. There's not really any kind of like relaxing time, because Jupiter is like Sagittarius energy, always on the go, ready to, do something new, do something different. So there can be a lot of focus on like expanding and growing like your interests or your careers or your professions. Because like I said, that's Sagittarian energy, also Pisces energy too. So you can be like really creative within the home. People who live in the home are like, can really be helpful, because Jupiter is like the teacher, the guru. People who like to help. It's like Piscean energy. Like I said, Pisces is the healer. This is not like really so much a materialistic home. It has more of like a spiritual vibe, because like I said, Jupiter rolls over Sag and Pisces. Those are very spiritual, religious type of energies. So, that can be a big focus. And those people who live in this house can also spend a lot of money on, socializing and food and just improving their life, because like I said, Sag energy, Jupiter energy is like, just have fun, just YOLO, just who cares? And so we can like kind of over exaggerate a lot of things too. So you can kind of overindulge as well. It is a planet of expansion. So this is a house really good for like anybody who wants to be a teacher or a coach, mentors and guides, people who are creative as well. And it is good for people who want to work in either like large groups, because it wants to help. It wants to help everybody. So it is, good for people who are really religious or close to their faith. And so that's just kind of something too to be aware of. So they just have to make sure that, they do schedule some time for like constant relaxation and to rejuvenate. Spiritual energy, healer energy can be very taxing on people, trying to help everybody and do everything. And you kind of forget about yourself. So that's just kind of something that those people need to pay attention to. But if you live in the 4 vibration, if your home or your apartment adds up to a number 4, that is Uranian energy. In Vedic astrology, that's Rahu, the north node. So it's kind of like Aquarius energy. So a lot of times too, when people live in the 4 vibration, it can be a very unique energy that makes people very goal oriented. And so because like I said, Uranus is Aquarius energy, and Aquarius does rule over the 11th house of your goals and your aspirations and things like that. So people who have, this home energy, Rahu is also the planet of like, or not a planet, but it's the point of like, it can be obsession. And so a lot of material gains and desires are really important for people who live in this home. They work really hard to achieve these things. They can really, like, I would say like they think very different. They can be very creative, think outside the box whenever they are making decisions within the home. And then a lot of times too, their daily routines can vary. Because like I said, Uranian energy is a very unexpected energy. And so sometimes they can work a lot during the night, as opposed to daytime. Maybe their schedule's all over the place to where they can experience like sleep issues. And so a lot of times too, the career and the commitments can also take over, any family or any social things. And so as an Aquarius, because that's kind of like Aquarian energy, I can see how, you can put like your career, what you have to do over like somebody saying like, hey, let's go to the movies. And you're like, that's really not important right now. So it is the vibration of like really hard workers living in this house. And so a lot of times too, the focus can be on, the in-laws, or they can have a really huge presence in your life. And so there can also be a lot of clutter, a lot of mess, unnecessary stuff. Hoarding can be a thing in this vibration too. So there can be like no plants, no gardens, no nothing like that. And so that can also contribute to health issues. So that's kind of something to be aware of too. So put some plants in your house if you don't have any. But it is good for people who have or want careers in IT work and AI, celebrities, gamers, software, acting, photography, social media. Like I said, that's Aquarius type of energy, Uranian type of energy too. And so also just to make sure you're practicing good health habits, that would be very beneficial because like I said, you might lack, green or gardens or anything like that. Maybe you live in the city, you got a lot of electronics around you, so just kind of pay attention to that. But if you live in the 5 vibration, if your home or your apartment adds up to a 5, then you are under that Mercurian energy. So Mercury rules over Gemini and Virgo. There can be a lot of constant activity. I do know somebody who lives in a 5. They've been living in this home for a very, very long time. So there's always constant activity, movement and change. A lot of times too with people who live in the 5, they can, communicate a lot with their neighbors, spend a lot of time on the phone, especially, if they have siblings and children. And this particular home does have a lot of family coming in and out, in and out. They are the house that hosts all of the reunions. And so there's just a lot of stuff going on in the home. Now in the home, everybody has an opinion. Everybody likes to talk a lot at the same time. That can also be seen through there too. But a lot of times too, you can focus a lot on relationships with younger children because Mercury is Gemini energy and Gemini is the child of the zodiac. So there can be a lot of people who, are young at heart. They have a lot of kids in the family, whether they're living there or just simply visiting constantly. That can be a thing too. There can also be a really sense of comfort within the home. And then two people who live here, they can feel and act really young. They can be a little bit playful. That is something I have seen with the homeowners that do live in that 5 vibration. At 60 plus years old, they are still, like I said, a kid at heart. So there's a lot of enthusiasm and excitement in life. A lot of times they prefer like the unusual. And even though Mercury is like it rules over the mutable signs, and mutable just kind of mutates to whatever energy is going on. So life can be full of ups and downs, or it can be constant change. But that constant change can be always redecorating, always renovating. They have built on their house. Built some things around the house. And so that is something I've seen too. Or just simply like, I just feel like rearranging the living room. I want to put the couch here instead of here. That can happen a lot too. So it's kind of hard to establish a set routine whenever you do live in the 5 vibration. And so people also, and I have noticed these people who live in this home, they're always traveling. They're always on the go. Gemini rules over the 3rd house of short distance traveling. That's Mercury energy. They are always going on a trip somewhere. So they can spend a lot of time outside of the home, or just like I said, flying somewhere, doing something. So it is good for people who work in communications, marketing, finance, or even in the travel industry. So they just need to make sure that they take time to, make important or critical decisions, because Mercury is just so quick. They can make like impulsive decisions. And so just to make sure that you're not just so quick with, any kind of commitments or anything like that. Make sure you're kind of thinking things through. But if you live in the number 6 vibration, that is Venus energy, that's Taurus and Libra. So, Venusian energy, it is very attractive. Your home can be very elegant, very beautiful, maybe have expensive things, nice things. And so there's a focus on relationships, the domestic life, because Taurus rules over the 2nd house of family, family ties, love, beauty, comfort. That's like the really main focus of people who live in this house. And so it can be very warm, very caring. It's a very positive aura within the home. Now, I do have a very close family member, again, who has been living in the 6th vibration in their home for about 30 years. And again, it is very, very family oriented in there every single Sunday, so that is something that, again, it's so weird how numerology works, but it is good for raising a family, for raising children. A lot of family traditions and celebrations happen whenever you live in that 6th vibration. And a lot of times too, when people do live in the 6th home, like everyone kind of shares responsibility. So that is something too. And I'm like having a freaking epiphany right now, because every time you would see the family get-togethers, everyone's always doing their part. There's somebody cleaning, there's somebody cooking, there's somebody, taking care of the kids. So it's like equal work. It's kind of spread out. So it can be a home that likes to keep things very beautiful, maybe with artwork or flowers or plants or gardens. Now, this person has a lot of plants in their home and outside of their home. They love flowers. Like, flowers is like the main focus. Oh my gosh, I'm having a freaking self-realization right now how crazy numerology is, y'all. But there is a tendency to be very helpful, like I said, and supportive with other people, because Venus is like Libra energy, and Libra likes to be in relationship with people, and Libra likes balance. So that's why things can be very fair whenever it comes to like domestic duties. And then sometimes too, I won't say the negative, but it can be, an energy where everybody's nosy and they can know about the affairs of the neighborhood. You know what the neighbor's doing, you know what's going on down the street. You're in everybody's business. I do know someone else who lives in a 6 home, and they have freaking binoculars. They have binoculars, and they be spying on everybody, y'all. But that is something too, in the 6th energy too. So there can be a little bit of, like, I want to say too much emphasis on relationship, and not so much on the career or the profession with this aspect too. So, people who kind of get lost in relationship, can, kind of put their work on the back burner. So just to make sure that if you, if you got work, just kind of try to balance that out too. So just to be aware of that, because you don't want to be too unbalanced. But it is, like I said, it's very harmonious for, happiness within the home, within the family, within relationship and love. And so that is the positive aspect of it. But if you are born on the if you have a home or an apartment that is, adds up to a 7, that is Neptunian energy, that's South Node energy, that's K2 in Vedic astrology. So this is like Piscean energy. Pisces is the 12th house of astrology, which is the house of like solitude. It is the peace and the quiet, that time that you spend to yourself. So people who live in the 7 vibration can, have an energy of privacy or introspection. A lot of times they spend a time alone, or just doing a lot of self-thinking, deep thinking. And then again, it's the energy of spirituality, living a simple life. Maybe they live the only house sitting on top of a hill. A lot of fresh food, healthy food. I do know somebody who lives in the 7 who has a garden in the back of their home. And again, I am freaking out because what in the world is this numerology thing? I'm just thinking about it right now, trying to do the math in my head. Like, what's their address? And so with that too, a lot of times too, people who like material things might not be happy in this energy, because Pisces, Neptunian energy is the energy of like letting things go. It's undoing. It doesn't need the material. And so that's not a big focus. So if you like the material, don't move into a 7 home, because you might end up letting all those things go. Maybe, I don't know, maybe somebody will steal them. I don't know. But that is possible. But it is beneficial for people who like to learn, like to research, because, you need to kind of be in isolation and focus. Anybody who like maybe wants to be a scientist or be really spiritual, because again, if you're in solitude, you have time to focus, on whatever it is that you're doing. So following spirituality is very beneficial if you live in this vibration. And then a lot of times too, they can have a lot of either foreign travel or just being away from the home. And the person that I know, they are always, again, constantly on the go, moving here, moving there, moving around, traveling here, so that is something too. But they can also feel like they're cut off from everyone, maybe cut off from the outside of the world. And so if you are somebody who maybe thrives in large social circles, you probably would be dissatisfied with the lack of like socialization that's around you. And so if you need people around you, don't live here. And so it is good for musicians and writers, content creators. Like I said, you need that isolation to kind of focus. Anybody who's, a mystic, a yoga teacher, an astrologer, people who are, studying foreign languages, energy healers, that's really, really good. And so try to though, because it is the energy of isolation, try to maintain harmony with people, maybe closeness within the marriage and partnership, as opposed to like being focused on your own needs all the time. Although, like I said, that where you live can kind of really change your own energy within. So, you know, you learn yourself to find balance. You learn everything around you to find balance. So if you do live in the 7 vibration, just kind of pay attention to other people if you are living with them. Number 8. And so I can kind of give you some stories about this. I have lived in 2 separate apartments that were adding up to 8, and yeah, it was very interesting. But this is Saturnian energy. You know, Saturn rules over Aquarius and Capricorn. And it's interesting, I am an Aquarius sun. So this is an energy of organization, of, you know, vision and hard work. There is a strong discipline and focus on career. And so a lot of times too, you know, these people like set regular routines, and financial management is very, very important to people who live on these, in these 8 things, in these 8 homes. And so that is something too that I really, really focused on when I lived in these 2 separate places. You know, my finances, and also too, because it's extra money, you know, I was renting one of them out for Airbnb. So again, making extra money, very, very important to me at the time. And so people who have like, I would say like really good judgment, you know, that's Capricorn energy, you know, they're very strong, focused energy. You know, people who have really well-defined goals can do really well here. People who have like either position of authority or just people who are workaholics can thrive in this energy. Like I said, I had a lot of stuff going on. I was running the Airbnb, working freaking 2 jobs at the same time. And so it was just constant work. A lot of times too, when people are in this energy, ethics and honesty and integrity are really important. And so like the financial aspect of the career, and the success depends a lot on, you know, these factors of ethics and honesty and integrity. That's Saturnian energy. And then so with money, it can come in and it can go out, you know. If you are Capricorn or born on the 8th day, you know, you can go through a lot of obstacles. Saturn is about discipline and structure and responsibility. But again, it can create issues. So again, money can come in and money can go out. So you can deal with a lot of those kind of issues. But it is good, like I said, for people who, you know, maybe want to make smart financial choices. It's less of like a domestic house. And I will say, because I was running it like an Airbnb, I was trying to make it all cool and stuff. And so, there could be like either a lot of clutter, or the decor can be really antique, or the items can be vintage or older. Now, I will say, I moved into that apartment with no furniture. And, you know, I was just like, hey, like, can I have that table you're not using? Can I have that couch you're not using? And so everything that I had in my apartment was like hand me down from someone else except my bed. And so I had all kind of decor from all over the place. And so you can be, you know, somebody who decorates like that if you're living in that 8. But there also too, if you live with other people, I did not at the time, but if you do live with other people, there can be a lot of focus on like either the older people of the family, because Saturn is, you know, maturity and older people. And so you can also deal with a lot of repairs and breakages too, because like I said, Saturn represents old. I did live, again, another epiphany. The building that I was living in was over 100 years old. And so that is something too. Now, of course, every apartment in there does not add up to an 8, but it is kind of interesting to see that, you know, it is tied to older energy. All right. And lastly, if you are living in that 9 vibration, your apartment, your home adds up to a 9. That is Martian energy. I have also lived in an apartment that added up to a 9. So I can give you some things that I had dealt with when I was living there. You know, Mars energy, it rules over Aries and Scorpio. So it can be, you know, highly energetic, very active, very focused. And it can be very compassionate as well, because that's scorpionic type of energy too. So a lot of times too, when you live in this vibration, you know, the energy can be very outgoing, very willing to help other people. But sometimes it can be help like really forcefully, that Aries type of energy or Scorpio type of energy. But there is a focus on improving your physical health, as well as like, you know, strengthening your mind, you know, really passionate about your beliefs, whatever it is. I lived in this place in one lease term. So I did take advantage of the really nice gym that was there. I was very, very on the go all the time. high energy there all the time. But they can be people, if you live in this vibration, be very understanding and tolerant of people who, maybe are different than you, other groups, really, I say like I have a big heart, be really respectful with people, but there is an energy of protectiveness because it's Martian energy, protective about their homes, about their families, like whether you got weapons in there, whether you got 1,000 locks on the door, whether you are just somebody who's ready to fight for your family, protect them in whatever situation. And it can get aggressive in the home, or if they just sense any kind of animosity towards, if anybody comes in and they're sensing any kind of animosity towards, their loved ones or whatever, they can be overly protective about that. They can also be really obsessive about the locks and the doors in the home, constantly checking, constantly making sure it's locked. Now, I will say, when I moved into this 9 home, because I'm just now putting 2 and 2 together, this was my very first apartment that had a concierge. And so I was very adamant about I need another layer of protection of somebody not being able to just, walk in, because I had dealt with living in the suburbs, living in an apartment where I felt like, people could just at any moment like kick down your door. I just was like, I just don't feel safe here. So I moved to a place that I felt like you needed to have like at least an extra layer of security. So it kind of makes sense. Martian energy, protective energy, Scorpio, Aries. But it can also be too, people who really love to stay home, or just really comfortable in it too. And there can be also a focus on, I would say, siblings and close friends, whether it's good or bad. And I did have a very, very close friend who lived down the street from me. And so we were constantly hanging out all the time. We became even closer when I lived there. So it's just kind of interesting to see. But, overall, y'all, like if that is, if you have resonated with any of this stuff, if you've seen this stuff within your home, let me know below, because as I was just kind of going off the dome here, I was like, hold on. I've experienced these things, and it's just very, I don't even know another word for weird or interesting, but just to see that how numerology and astrology and everything ties to every single part of your life, and it is vibrating and changing your behaviors and just how you do things. And I just think it's so fascinating. But anyways, y'all, thank y'all for listening to me, and I will see y'all on the next video. Let me know what y'all want me to talk about.